Part 22. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turnover. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 211. The shopkeeper flattered him and said, "The second young master is really a good man. This hairpin is not even worth 20 cents, but you spent 1 or 2 cents to buy it." Yang Erden looked away, looked at the copper hairpin in his hand, turned around and walked toward Sun Yan, and gave the hairpin to her. "You know better, I'll keep it for you." Sun Yan was amused and took it very naturally. He held it up and looked at it for a moment, then said thoughtfully, "This copper hairpin is not damaged." "Shopkeeper, why did you say there is a bead missing on it?" The shopkeeper came over, took the hairpin and gestured. "It turns out there are several circles of red rope wrapped around it, and there is a bead on the red rope. I have seen it, it is a pearl, and the hole is drilled very well, not ordinary good stuff. For the sake of that bead, I agreed to spend 1 tael of silver to buy this hairpin. It's just that the man came with his mother-in-law at that time. His mother-in-law was obviously reluctant to part with it, so the man said never to sell it, which was a pity for me. I didn't expect that I would come here again today and sell me 1 tael of silver without the beads. Isn't this extortion of money? We are open to do business, and we are fair and honest. I will sell it as cheaply as possible within the appropriate range, and I will try my best to give a fair price to others when I take it back. This is not the case today. I want to really collect it. If I turn around, my boss will kill me." Zhang Ning expressed his understanding and said with a slight smile, "I'm sorry to bother the shopkeeper today. I need to customize some noodle dishes. When the time comes, I will ask my second daughter-in-law to discuss it with the shopkeeper." "Okay, okay. If Uncle Guang'an needs anything, just ask him, and I will definitely do it." The shopkeeper smiled broadly and followed them out of the shop as he spoke. The 3 of them returned to Dongli Villa. Zhang Ning and Sun Yan asked for the hairpin and went back to the room. Sun Yan looked at Yang Erden puzzled. "Which copper hairpin does Anyang like?" Yang Erden shook his head, feeling a little guilty. "Speaking of which, my mother-in-law didn't have many kinds of hairpins that she could wear when going out. In the past, my family was poor, so all they used were bamboo or wooden hairpins. Later, when my mother-in-law earned some money, she only gave it to her elder sister-in-law and younger sister-in-law. My sister bought beads and flowers, but she didn't buy any herself. The ones on her hands were all gifts from others. Although it is noble and valuable, it is not suitable for daily wear, and my mother-in-law doesn't like it. If I had known, I would have bought her some silver hairpins at the Genbeo Pavilion just now. Silver hairpins on the market are either pure silver or silver-plated, and can be worn by ordinary women without being too eye-catching." Seeing that Yang Erden was in a bad mood, Sun Yan immediately pulled him out again. "Let's go. Let's go buy it." Zhang Ning didn't even know that the 2 children had gone to the city again. After returning to the room, she took out the hairpin and looked at it for a long time, trying to confirm that this hairpin was the same hairpin as the one in her memory. Maybe she was too absorbed in looking at it and unknowingly it's already dark outside. Steward Zhu held a lantern and said hello outside the door. "Madam, is it time for dinner?" Zhang Ning came back to his senses and rubbed his eyebrows. "Come in." "What time is it?" Steward Zhu stepped forward cautiously and respectfully replied, "It's time for you." "Where are the second young master and the second young madam?" Butler Zhu replied hesitantly, "The second young master and the second young lady have gone out and have not come back yet." Zhang Ning just thought that the young couple was going to Su's house, so he didn't ask any questions. Instead, he handed the copper hairpin to Butler Zhu. "Someone went to Genbeo Pavilion to sell this hairpin today. Find a few people to help me check that person's background." "Yes." Butler Zhu took the things carefully and didn't ask any more questions. Zhang Ning stood up and took out a box. "Here are 3,000 taels. Please help me pay attention to the shops on the main street of Fukan and the west of the city, as well as the houses in the south of the city. If you find something suitable, buy it. The shop should have 2 rooms, not too small, and the location should be good. The house needs to have 3 courtyards. In addition, if I buy 500 acres of land near Dongli Villa, it doesn't matter if it is all wasteland, as long as it can open up wasteland. I want to build another village. If these 3,000 taels are not enough, you come to me again. If I have left the city, tell the second young master and ask him for money. Butler Zhu didn't dare to delay with such a large sum of money. After leaving the yard, he immediately ordered Zhu San to go to Zhenbao Pavilion to inquire about the news, and went to buy a shop and house himself. Because there were so many things going on, Butler Zhu didn't pay attention to when Yang Erden and his wife came back. Early the next morning, when Zhang Ning got up, Sun Yan was already waiting outside, preparing to wash her. Zhang Ning smiled helplessly. It seems that our family is really in desperate need of a few servants, otherwise you wouldn't have to do your own business all day long around me. No way. My mother-in-law said that when you get married, you should honor your parents-in-law. What's more, my mother-in-law is so good to me, so I should serve you, Sun Yan said while twisting Zhang Ning's hair. Her hands were very skillful. And she combed her hair into a beautiful bun. Zhang Ning saw her trying to take out a silver hairpin from behind, and immediately asked in surprise, "Where did this hairpin come from?" Sun Yan pursed her lips playfully, "Guess." Zhang Ning smiled angrily, "Did you go out to buy it yesterday?" "Auntie, you are so smart." "I can't hide anything from you," Su Yan was a little frustrated. Zhang Ning laughed and said, "You have forgotten that I walked around the Zhenbao Pavilion yesterday. Although the silver hairpin is on the first floor, it is always placed in a conspicuous position. It is still a complete set. I can still forget it? Then I won't hide it from you, I'll give it all to you." Sun Yan immediately picked up a small box from behind and opened it for Zhang Ning to take a look at. This set of hair contains a silver necklace, earrings, 2 hairpins, and a pair of silver bracelets set with emeralds. Chang Lin said that grandma doesn't like to wear those gorgeous jewelry, so we specially selected some silver jewelry. In addition to the set of hairpins, there is also a set of 10 silver hairpins. Let me show you. Zhang Ning really liked it after seeing it. These must cost a lot of money. Sun Yan shook his head. I thought of these 10 sets of silver hairpins myself, so I made one set, and the rest were made by craftsmen. If they were sold in a shop, each set would cost 5 taels of silver. I go buy it, it's 30 taels for a set, it's not expensive, and with this set, the total is 65 taels. Zhang Ning could accept the price, so she immediately put on the 2 silver bracelets, chose a magnolia silver hairpin and asked Sun Yan to insert it for her. After finishing her bun, Sun Yan asked, "Mom, what clothes are you wearing today?" Given Zhang Ning's current status, she should wear silk and satin, but she feels that the clothes are easy to catch the silk threads, which is inconvenient, so she prefers the materials bought from Anquilang. Except for 2 sets of satin dresses for going out, the rest in the wardrobe are made of cotton and fine linen. Zhang Ning looked back and said, "Just the crimson one." Sun Yan put it on for her, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Her mother-in-law is simple, and she doesn't care about external things even though she has a noble status. She doesn't dress like a lady, but like an ordinary woman, and she is still the kind of beautiful woman who still has charm. People. As soon as Zhang Ning finished washing up, Butler Zhu came over. "Madam, I asked someone to ask this morning. There is really a piece of wasteland that can be bought and sold near Dongli Villa, but it's a bit deserted. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over." Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 212. Zhang Ning didn't take it seriously. It wasn't until she actually went to see it that she realized what the so-called wilderness meant. Her 4 villages were made up of hills, and the only piece of flat land was 50 to 60 acres visually. The weeds were almost as tall as her forehead. She didn't even dare to get close, let alone enter. Butler Zhu was so nervous that he broke out in a cold sweat. "Madam, almost all the land in the suburbs of Fukan is owned, and it is also very expensive. It is too difficult to buy 500 acres of wasteland near Dongli Villa. I asked around, only this piece is barely enough." An old farmer nearby said that although there are hills here, they are not very high. You can still grow food by clearing some of them. More importantly, even if these hills are cleared, they will not be included in the fields and no taxes will be paid. Zhang Ning's complexion improved a little, but it was still ugly. Butler Zhu was helpless. "If madam feels that this place is not suitable, I can ask again to see if there is anyone nearby who wants to sell zhuangzi." Zhang Ning let out a long sigh of relief. "Forget it. If you really ask, they will sell it to you even if they don't have the idea. I don't want to cause trouble. There are so many people who want to be friends with her now. If you really do this, you will have to owe a favor. If you can't owe something like favor, it's best not to owe it." Steward Zhu had already figured out Zhang Ning's thoughts, otherwise he wouldn't have had the guts to bring her here. "Madam, do we really want to take over this place?" Zhang Ning walked back and forth a few times and nodded helplessly. "It seems that there is no other choice but here. At least there is a piece of 50 or 60 acres of land here. It is okay to clear it out and build a separate garden." This is just her self-comfort. With her approval, Butler Zhu immediately went to the city to seize this wasteland. When the government official heard that Uncle Guang'an wanted to buy it, he didn't dare to neglect it. He immediately led people to measure it. When he got to the place, he looked left and right, and asked puzzledly, "How to get there?" Steward Zhu pointed around and said, "This is it." The official was stunned and tried to persuade him for a long time. He had no choice but to ask someone to measure it. As a result, a government official stepped on a snake shortly after entering the grass. In an instant, the whole wasteland was filled with rustling sounds. It makes people's scalp numb. Someone was bitten by a red ant and immediately developed a big rash. The officials suddenly felt that there was a problem, so they hurriedly brought back several injured government officials and replaced a wave of professionals to come and work. After they cleared out the wasteland and hills, Butler Zhu learned about the situation and hurried to see Zhang Ning. "Madam, the situation in the wasteland has changed." "What's wrong?" Zhang Ning asked with a headache. Butler Zhu hurriedly took her there. Now the weeds on the entire wasteland had been either pulled out or cut. There were still traces of fire on them. The ground had been turned over and sprinkled with shell ash. The shell ash can fertilize the fields and drive away the insects. Bug sterilization. Zhang Ning wanted to go in, but Butler Zhu quickly stopped him. "Madam, the land is soft, be careful." The official in charge of water conservancy at the government office said that these 50 or 60 acres of wasteland should have been a swamp. Over the years, it has become most of the water has evaporated to create a surface like this. It is only about 6 or 7 meters thick. The bottom 6 or 7 meters is full of silt. The lower it goes, the wetter it becomes. The good thing is that the soil is soft and fertile enough, and anything you plant will grow well. The official means that we can plant crops directly on it. As long as we don't plow too deeply, there should be no problem. Another option is to dig the soil and keep it. Dig out the silt below and create a pond. I think the second method is not very reliable, not to mention that it will cost a lot of manpower and financial resources. Even if we dig it, we don't know what is going on underneath. The mud is very deep and the mud needs to be cleaned. If the mud is cleared, I found that there is still a passage, but I can't even build this fish pond. Zhang Ning's heart was shaking. She originally thought she could build a yard no matter how bad the land was, but now it seemed like she was wishful thinking. Farming was fine, but what if she didn't have a house in her village? Butler Zhu also felt that this problem was extremely difficult, so he quickly asked for help from several government officials who had not yet completely evacuated. After communicating, Butler Zhu took Zhang Ning up to a hillside. "Madam, they said that the bottom of this hill is full of rocks and it is not easy to open up wasteland. Instead, it can be leveled and a piece of flat land can be built to build a garden. It would be good to plant some fruit trees and flowers on the slope. It's pretty good, there are a few other hills that can be reclaimed." Zhang Ning looked at it. If it was designed like this, you would have to climb a long flight of steps to get to Zhuangzi. It would be really weird. Seeing her serious face, Butler Zhu took her to another hill. "Madam, you see there is a large stream here. Although the hills are high, with this stream here, irrigation should not be difficult. There is a swamp down there in the wasteland, you can dig a well." He racked his brains to tell Zhang Ning as much as possible about the good aspects of this place. Zhang Ning sighed after a long time. "That's it? By the way, how much money will it cost to do this?" Originally, she expected to spend 200 taels to buy the land, and another 300 taels to build the house and clean up, but now it seems that it is not enough. Butler Zhu grinned and said, "The government office knew that you wanted to acquire this land and immediately brought people over to measure and deal with it. I never thought that this area is actually a combination of hills and swamps. I didn't even dare to ask for money. I didn't agree, insisted on giving 200 taels. The official had no choice but to ask the prefect for instructions. Finally, the prefect collected 200 taels and sent these people to deal with it. They will deal with the several hills and the land before handing it over to us. The prefect also said that there is no need to pay taxes on these 500 acres of hills and swamps, and we can make our own arrangements." This is an unexpected surprise. Zhang Ning finally had a smile on his face. Butler Zhu secretly breathed a sigh of relief and echoed, "I think so too. From now on, if my wife wants to try growing crops, I can put them on this farm. It's just that I'm not in Fukin often, so there are some things that are beyond my reach," Zhang Ning said as he walked down the hill. Butler Zhu hurriedly caught up, "There are also small shops and houses that Madam wants. One shop is at the front of the main street. The shop floor is smaller than Zhenbao Pavilion. There are 2 small courtyards and a mixed courtyard in the backyard. It was quite spacious for one person and cost 850 taels. The other one is in the west of the city. Turn right when you enter the city. It was originally a liquor store. The old man who owned it has made a good profit from his unique winemaking skills in recent years. However, he is old and has limited energy. In addition, his son is doing business in Jiangnan. After making a lot of money, he wanted to take him there and never come back, so he reluctantly sold the house and shop here. I have seen the wine shop in a good location and spacious. It is not as good as an inn, but it is bigger than the restaurant next to it. It is also very clean. As soon as I enter, there is a strong aroma of wine. The old man is eager to sell it and asks for 800 yuan. Too, which is fair, and the small one decided to buy it." Zhang Ning was a little surprised. A lot of people should want such a good shop. Butler Zhu nodded. "Everyone knows that the old man is anxious and is still bargaining with him. The younger one just gave me the money, and the old man immediately agreed." Zhang Ning praised Butler Zhu very much. Butler Zhu was very excited and said, "One more thing. You asked me to find out more about the little investigation. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 213. Zhang Ning stopped suddenly and turned around suddenly. Butler Zhu almost ran into him, but luckily he turned a corner in time and fell into the grass. He quickly stood up and patted the dirt on his body. "I'm sorry, You said you found it, Zhang Ning said urgently. Steward Zhu nodded repeatedly. I'll leave this matter to Zhu-san. You might as well call Zhu-san in person for questioning. He knows best. Zhang Ning immediately asked Butler Zhu to turn around and return to Dongli Villa. As soon as the two of them returned to the mansion, Butler Zhu called Zhu-san over. Please tell me about the copper hairpin. Yes, Zhu-san nodded and bowed, glanced at Zhang Ning humbly, and replied respectfully, Madam, that day when I was young, I went to Zhenbao Pavilion and asked the shopkeeper. I learned from the shopkeeper that the man selling hairpins was a fisherman, and he should be from the east of the city. From the fishing village, the shopkeeper also said that the man's mother-in-law was seriously ill and needed life-saving money. Combining these points, the young man found a family in Hankow village who was in this situation. Then Xiao went to Hankow village in person to inquire and found out that the man's name was Xian Kun. Zhang Ning looked disappointed and muttered to himself, how come the surname is Xian? Zhu-san paused and said hesitantly, although the man's name is Xian Kun, the man's wife has the same surname as his wife. Zhang Ning's eyes suddenly lit up. What's your name? People in the village call her Zhang Xiaokaiu. Above the two of them is a blind elder who looks to be in her 40s. People in the village call her blind, and above them there is a white-haired mother-in-law who is in her 50s or 60s. The villagers seem to call her Grandma Tao. Yes, her surname is Tao, which should be Tao Guan. This person doesn't have the same surname as the couple, so I can't guess their relationship. People in the fishing village are very wary, and I'm afraid of asking too many questions. People are suspicious and don't dare to ask any more. Zhu-san was a little uneasy. If he had known that Madame took this matter so seriously, he would have asked again about everything. Zhang Ning lowered his eyes and said quietly after a long while, it's not Tao, but Tao Hua. Butler Zhu, get ready and come with me to Hankow village. Steward Zhu asked cautiously, Madam, do you need to make any preparations? Zhang Ning thought about the appearance of those people in his memory, pondered for a while, then shook his head, just go into the city and buy some things. Zhu-san has been to Hankow village, so naturally he drove and led the way. It was already afternoon when we arrived. The fishing village was a little quiet and the roads in the village were not easy to walk. Zhang Ning could only get off the car and walk into the village with Butler Zhu. The two of them found a dilapidated stone house in the direction Zhu-san said. Before they even reached the door, they heard bursts of sobbing coming from inside. Mother-in-law, it's not that I don't want children, it's just that I'm powerless. Spring has left early and I have to be a widow for him while I'm still young. You are also a woman, why can't you understand me? Mother-in-law. I beg you, please let me go. I really can't stand it. Weevu Mrs. Gong cried bitterly, so pitiful. Gong's mother-in-law, Mrs. Guo, pursed her lips and said nothing. She could not see her eyes and could only identify her position by listening to her voice. She didn't even know how far Gong was from her. Mother Gong suppressed her anger and glared at Mrs. Guo, it's not a matter of words. Mother Da-chun, you have to be conscientious. My daughter became a widow only 3 months after marrying into your family. Even so, she still gritted her teeth and gave birth to the child. Come down and leave a trace of Da-chun's blood. She is worthy of your Zhang family. If you really don't let her go, we will talk about it and let everyone comment. Mrs. Tao's face changed slightly, and she tremblingly tried to dissuade Mother Gong. Aimee, mother, don't get excited. We didn't say we wouldn't let Aimee go, but you know the situation at home now. Our Xiaokaiu is sick. She is seriously ill, it's very serious. Da-chun can't see his mother. I can't take care of so many people as an old woman. If Aimee leaves at this time, what will happen to the child? Mother Gong was furious, her voice rising several times, if you can't support us, we will give it to other people. What? You still want to tie up my daughter with your child for the rest of her life? Your wickedness is smoking, Tao was yelled at. If you dare to talk back, you can't even raise your head. The children in the room were probably frightened awake by Mother Gong's roar, and howled loudly. Ms. Gong raised his head and looked into the room for a while, with tears in his eyes, but he still resisted going in. When Mrs. Guo saw her children crying like this, Mrs. Gong didn't feel soft. Her last bit of hope was completely wiped out. She walked tremblingly along the wall and walked into the house. She stopped as soon as she touched the door. The corner of her mouth twitched and said, "If you want to leave, just leave. Take your things and don't come back again." Gong's mother was so happy that she took Gong and left. "Can't leave." Zhang Qiu walked out of the room weakly with Xin Kun's support. "Auntie, we can't let her go. Sister-in-law. Our family spent 2 taels of silver to marry you, and my eldest brother also wanted to make money for you. You will risk your life only if you want to live a good life. Now that his body is still cold, you have to abandon your child and leave. Even if my mother-in-law agrees, I will not agree." "Ha! What's the matter with you? You have no place to speak here." Gong's mother angrily spat on the ground, not taking Zhang Xiaoqiu seriously. Zhang Xiaoqiu clenched her fists, her pale face a little red with anger. She didn't look at Gong's mother, only stared at Gong. "Sister-in-law, do you really want to be so heartless?" Gong lowered his head and did not respond. Zhang Xiaoqiu was extremely disappointed. "If you leave today, I will never be at odds with you in the future." Mrs. Gong raised her head pitifully. "Xiao Qiu, I know that your eldest brother has a deep love for me, and I can't help him, but I really can't help it. My mother-in-law has already shown me the relationship again, and she has changed Gentai. I also accepted a betrothal gift from others. I must get married." Everyone in the Zhang family changed their faces. Mother Gong, however, did not feel any shame at being exposed. Instead, she was very proud. "I am much richer than you, and I don't mind that my daughter is a widow. I gave her a betrothal gift of 3 taels, as well as fabrics and snacks. When you married my daughter, I gave 2 taels of silver and nothing else. If it weren't for Da Chun's sincerity towards my daughter, would I have agreed to this marriage? If I had known that he was a short-lived ghost, I wouldn't have agreed to anything he said in the first place. Marry your daughter over." Gong's mother's words almost made Mrs. Guo faint from anger, and even Mrs. Tao was so angry that she couldn't speak. Zhang Ning outside couldn't stand listening anymore and walked into the courtyard, reported to the official. "You will go to jail for selling other people's wives privately." Everyone looked at the courtyard door together. Guo couldn't see it and was the first to speak. "Who is coming?" Zhang Qiu supported her and shook his head. "I don't know, I haven't seen it before." Gong's mother frowned. "Who are you? What do you want here?" Zhang Ning's face was sullen, and she didn't even look at Mother Gong. She walked straight to Mrs. Gong and squatted down slowly. "She is indeed quite pretty, no wonder. Let me tell you this, as long as the Zhang family doesn't allow you to leave, you can only be the wife of the Zhang family, born as a Zhang family member, and dead as a ghost of the Zhang family. Your mother is not qualified to take over your 2 families. As long as the Zhang family goes to the government to sue your mother, you, your mother, and the family who married you will all be sued. Do you understand? Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over." Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 214. The Gong family had never had any dealings with the government in their lives. No matter how fierce the trouble was, the village chief would at most come out and make peace with it. Even if the trouble was so serious that someone was about to die, the village chief could still resolve it. In their eyes, the village chief was the biggest official. Hearing Zhang Ning's words, Mrs. Gong instantly turned pale. Mother Gong was also frightened, but she still looked fierce and yelled, "Who are you? This is Hangkou village, outsiders are not welcome. Nosy. As she spoke, Mother Gong glared at the Guo family members fiercely. If you have the guts, report it to the official. Let's see who gets killed. Zhang Ning stared at Gong without blinking. Is that what you mean too? Gong lowered his eyes. Zhang Ning shook his head in disappointment, stood up and told Butler Zhu, let Zhu San report to the official. Yes, Butler Zhu left immediately. Seeing that Zhang Ning was serious, Gong's mother immediately shouted at the top of her lungs, someone's coming. He's bullying someone. Come on, someone's coming. Outsiders are bullying the villagers. After a while, a group of fishermen came outside the Zhang family courtyard, and some of them were holding things in their hands. Gong's mother immediately had a backer and ran towards them, accusing Zhang Ning, I don't know where this man came from. He wants to report to the officials to arrest me. Everyone was stunned, looking at Mother Gong and then at Zhang Ning. An old man in his 50s or 60s walked over slowly, looked at Zhang Ning for a few times, and asked her politely, Madam, I wonder why our people have offended you. Zhang Ning raised his eyebrows and asked, are you the village chief? The old man nodded slowly, that's right, the old man is the village chief of Hankou village. Zhang Ning raised the corners of her lips slightly, then the village chief should know what happened to the Zhang family. This woman bullied a room full of old, weak, sick, and disabled people. Why didn't the village chief come out to uphold justice for them? The village chief's expression changed slightly, he looked at the situation in the yard and glared at Mother Gong, what good thing have you done again? Gong's mother felt guilty, her eyes flickered, and she muttered, what can I do? Let me speak for her. She married Zhang Dachun's wife without telling the Zhang family. Zhang Ning summed it up in one sentence. Gong's mother didn't feel she was wrong at all. Village chief, Zhang Dachun died early, and my daughter became a widow only 3 months after her marriage. She is so young, why can't she remarry? A woman couldn't bear to listen and shouted, even if she wants to get married, she needs the consent of the Zhang family. If the Zhang family marries her, what does it have to do with your family? Why does my daughter have nothing to do with me? Gong's mother refused to accept it and argued with a stiff neck. The village chief ignored the lawsuit filed by the woman in the village, but curiously asked Zhang Ning, are you from the Zhang family? Relatives. Zhang Ning smiled, with no unnecessary emotion in his eyes. The village chief suddenly realized, looked at Guo, and sighed, Da Chun, you can't resurrect the dead, and the living have to look forward. Although Gong Mei and her mother are not right, she is right about one thing. Gong Mei is still young, it is inhumane to let her stay a widow for the rest of her life. If she has intentions, no one will say anything. The problem is that if she wants to leave, you will not be able to keep her even if you force her to stay. On the contrary, if you agree to let her go, the family will not be able to live in peace. If Gong Mei remarries, how about I ask her mother-in-law to return the bride price to your family? Why? I gave birth to my daughter, so why should I give her a bride price to his family? I don't agree, Ms. Gong shouted, jumping up and down in anger. Asking for her money was like asking for her life. Just as Mrs. Guo was about to speak, Zhang Xiaoqiu said sarcastically, okay. If her family can send all the gifts, we can let her go, but from now on, she and my family will be cut off completely. She can't even see the children, nor can she recognize. This. The village chief frowned and looked at Gong Mei. Gong Mei gritted her teeth, I promise. As she said this, she looked at Gong's mother, Mom, bring all the bride price. Gong's mother was so distressed that she said, I don't. Those things are all mine. Gong Mei's face darkened, the Zhang family has already reported to the government. If you don't agree, do you want to go to jail? The village chief cursed angrily, not even a child is half sensible, he is really living in a dog's belly. In the end, Gong's father forcibly sent the bride price to the Zhang family. Gong's mother wanted to stop it and scolded her, but no one cared about her opinion at all. Zhang Ning asked Butler Zhu, who had returned, to fetch the 4 treasures of the study, and personally drew up a contract for the 2 families to pledge. The matter was settled. However, the village chief was still a little worried about official duties, so he still stayed at Jiang's house, planning to get there soon when officials arrived. Step forward to explain and smooth over the matter. Jiang Ning didn't take it seriously, and Tao Shi said slowly to Xian, who was holding the child, "Bring out a stool." Xian glanced at Jiang Ning, and went into the room to get a stool under Zhang Xiaokai's confused eyes. The village chief was testing Jiang Ning's relationship with the Zhang family, but Jiang Ning just smiled and didn't answer. The village chief was a little displeased. He looked at Zhang Xiaokai and others, but found that these people were at a loss. Only Tao's situation was not right, but Tao's obviously had resentment towards him. She kept keeping a straight face and didn't look at him much. One glance. This family. The village chief became more and more annoyed as he thought about it, and regretted that he had agreed to allow the Zhang family to settle in their village. Before the official came, Gong's mother came over again and stood with her arms akimbo at the gate of the courtyard, cursing, "You are so unscrupulous that you even dare to ask for my daughter's betrothal gift. You deserve to die. My son will die early. I curse your family to cut off any descendants." Jiang Ning's face suddenly darkened, he stood up suddenly and strode towards Gong's mother. He raised his hand and slapped Gong's mother hard. She was so beaten that stars appeared in her eyes, and she spun around in circles before falling down. The villagers who were watching the joke changed their faces when they saw Jiang Ning taking action, and walked out of their homes, ready to make a move. The village chief was completely ashamed and chased him out. "Even if you are a relative of the Zhang family, you can't beat people in our village. You are really going against the grain." Tao Shi didn't expect Jiang Ning to be so impulsive, so she ran out, grabbed her, and scolded her, "Why do you beat her so well? It doesn't hurt to curse her. This is Hangkou village. What should we do if we offend them? I'll take the blame if something happens." Jiang Ning stared at these unruly people gloomily, with burning anger in his chest. "Ouch! You! I'm so angry with you." Tao Shi couldn't do anything to Jiang Ning, so she stamped her feet in panic. Jiang Ning felt that she was in the way and frowned, "You go in first." Tao Shi shook her head decisively, "No. I have to watch you from here to prevent you from causing trouble for me again." Anyang, Jiang Ning was furious. Does she look so unreliable? When she shouted, everyone in the Zhang family and the villagers in Hangkou village were stunned. Steward Zhu subconsciously covered his mouth, his eyes darting back and forth between Jiang Ning and everyone in the Zhang family. Zhang Xiaokai was extremely shocked and asked in a low voice in Guo's ear, "Anyang, she calls Anyang, who is she?" Ms. Guo froze in place, unable to say a word for a long time, as if she was stuck in long-lasting memories. Gong's mother covered her face and sat on the ground crying, "Everyone else is bullying me, but you are still not from the Gong family. You just watch me being bullied. You. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 215. What's up? Gong's mother came as soon as she finished speaking about official duties. Over the years in Hangkou village, there have been few official missions coming. Every time the official missions show up, there is a problem at sea. Many of them have seen the official missions kill pirates and bandits with their own eyes. It is not an exaggeration to say that they kill without blinking an eye. The villagers fear and reject officials from the bottom of their hearts. When they saw the officials entering the village and saw the swords on their waists, everyone quietly drew back their necks. Even Gong's mother, who was sitting on the ground making a fuss, quickly stood up, covered her face and complained pitifully. Not daring to be arrogant at all. When the village chief saw Gong's mother taking the initiative to speak, he remained silent and had no intention of speaking on behalf of the Zhang family. Tao was so anxious that she wanted to defend herself, but she saw several officials walking towards Zhang Ning seriously. It's over. Tao's vision went dark and she almost fell down. Steward Zhu quickly helped the person. Meet Guang and Bo. Several officials saluted Zhang Ning. The bystanders were instantly petrified and did not respond for a long time. Zhou Tong, the head of the government office, asked respectfully, Uncle Guang En, what are your orders? Zhang Ning pointed angrily at Gong's mother, She's disrespectful to me. Arrest her and put her in jail to be punished. Yes, Zhou Tong waved his hand, and two cotters immediately stepped forward and arrested Gong's mother. Gong's mother was so frightened that she peed her pants and struggled repeatedly, it's none of my business. She was the one who hit me. She hit me first. You can't arrest me. I'm unjust. Zhang Ning sneered and said, Butler Zhu, tell a few officials what she just said. Steward Zhu told Mother Gong's unbearable insults word for word. Zhou Tong was shocked and looked at Mother Gong in disbelief, you are so brave. Don't you want to live? Come here. Take her away. Stop her mouth and cut off her tongue if she talks nonsense. Gong's mother's family members were all so frightened that they did not dare to breathe. All the other villagers hid in their houses, and no one could be seen. Zhou Tong saw that the people below had taken Gong's mother away. He quickly wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and asked cautiously, Sir, do you have any other orders? Zhang Ning looked at the dull-looking Tao Shi, walked straight to Zhang Xiaoqiu, and ordered, Go. Pack your luggage and follow me. Zhang Xiaoqiu still wanted to ask, but Guo grabbed her hand tightly and urged nervously, Listen to your majesty, go right away. Zhang Xiaoqiu looked at Guo and then at Zhang Ning, who had a sulky look on his face. He obediently entered the house and asked Xian to help. They say that a broken home is worth tens of thousands of dollars, and every stitch and every drop is a treasure, but this is only for the poor. Zhang Ning's face turned dark when he saw that Xian had to take everything with him. Butler Zhu was very discerning and stepped forward to remind him, Madam, you just want to take away the valuable things. Xian looked at the dustpan and basket in his hands, having a hard time choosing between them. Even Zhou Tong couldn't stand it anymore and immediately went in to help. As soon as Zhou Tong left, the village chief immediately knelt down in front of Zhang Ning and kowtowed, Sir, this little man is too blind to see Mount Tai. Please forgive me, please forgive me. The village chief kowtowed a few times before Zhang Ning winked at the Yamen official. Two officials immediately stepped forward to lift the village chief up, their actions were very rude. Old God Zhang Ning was sitting on the stool without saying a word, and the solemn atmosphere was so heavy that it was breathless. Tao Shi was wandering aside, not knowing what she was thinking. Xian finished packing his things, holding the child in one hand and supporting Zhang Xiaoqiu in the other. Zhang Xiaoqiu pulled Guo, and the group slowly walked out of the house. Zhang Ning glanced at them. They were really old, weak, sick, and disabled. He shook his head unconsciously, stood up, and said, Let's go. Where are you going? Zhang Xiaoqiu couldn't help but asked. Zhang Ning looked at her face that was somewhat similar to hers, paused, and said, My home. Not long after they walked out of the yard, Gong Mei rushed out, knelt in front of Zhang Ning and kowtowed desperately, Sir. My mother-in-law is not sensible, please spare her for once. I beg you. Gong Mei looked very embarrassed at this time. Not only was she covered in gray, her face was wet with tears, her hair was also messy, and she felt quite pity for her. Zhang Ning was unmoved and looked past her without blinking. Gong Mei turned around and shouted to Zhang Xiaoqiu, That's right. I'm not a human being, and I'm sorry for your brother. But don't forget, if it hadn't been for me, neither you nor your brother would have survived. You all owe me your life. Zhang Ning looked at Zhang Xiaoqiu and frowned, What's going on? Zhang Xiaoqiu looked a little ugly and whispered, Back then, My brother and I secretly went to the sea and played until we forgot the time. We didn't notice when the tide came in. We were almost swept away by the waves. She happened to see us and gave us a lift. Jiang Ning understood and looked at Zhou Tong. Teach that woman a lesson before letting her go. After saying that, she turned around and looked at Zhang Xiaokai coldly. I'll repay this favor for her. For her sake, spare your mother's life. If you threaten her with this matter again in the future, you will be severely punished. Gong Mei shivered with fright, her tears fell even more fiercely, and she couldn't stand up until Jiang Ning and his party left. When the villagers in Hangkou village saw them leaving, they started to show up one after another. Their eyes looked at Gong Mei with a little more pity. With such a big shot backing the Zhang family, they would definitely be prosperous. If Gong Mei hadn't made such a fuss, this would have been impossible. Wealth will be hers in the future, what a pity. Jiang Ning took them to the entrance of the village. There was a carriage parked there. It was obvious that so many people could not fit in it. Fortunately, Zhou Tong was smart and immediately got an ox cart from a nearby village and let the rest of the Zhang family ride on it. Zhang Xiaokai was still in a daze until she got on the bullock cart. Because the driver was an official, she didn't dare to speak, so she just endured it. Arrived outside the yamen, Jiang Ning led housekeeper Zhu in and came out after a while. Judging from her posture, it seemed as if the yamen belonged to her family and she could come and go freely. Tao she just didn't understand and knew that her daughter, whom she hadn't seen for more than 10 years, had changed and turned into a completely different person from what she remembered. The group returned to Dongli Villa. Jiang Ning asked butler Zhu to take the Zhang family members to wash up and arrange rooms for them. When Tao Shi and others came out after taking a shower and changing into clean clothes, they found that the hall was already filled with a table of delicacies. Jiang Ning asked them to sit down and said, "Eat, we'll talk after eating." Tao Shi was full of doubts and couldn't eat at all. Jiang Ning gave her a big chicken leg and said angrily, "Eat." I couldn't eat before and always said that I would be pushed into the water for a chicken. Why not eat now that I can eat? Tao's eyes immediately turned red and she cried sadly, "That's not what you stole from others." Jiang Ning was also a little uncomfortable. He gave her the handkerchief and softened his tone, "Okay. Stop crying. If you cry anymore, the food will get cold." Tao Shi then obediently picked up the chopsticks. She didn't pick up the vegetables either. She just ate whatever Jiang Ning picked up for her. Jiang Ning didn't dare to give her too many greasy things. Zhang Xiaokai listened to the uncomfortable conversation between the two and found that the dishes Jiang Ning served to her grandma were all her grandma's favorites, and she became even more curious about Jiang Ning. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 216. After the group had finished their meal, the servants brought tea and left silently. Seeing her carefree look, Ms. Tao couldn't help but ask, "How have you been doing these past few years? Why did you become so prosperous all of a sudden?" Jiang Ning sneered, "What's wrong? You're not happy that I'm rich? Hey! You kid, can you stop speaking so rudely?" Tao was so upset. "I've always been like this." Jiang Ning remembered that the original owner always talked like this to Tao. The difference was that the original owner was deliberately angry with Tao. She just didn't want her to change too much and arouse Tao's suspicion. Tao Shi glared at her and asked depressedly, "Where is that little ruffian? Why haven't we seen him for so long? What's wrong? Don't you want to see us?" Jiang Ning blinked and immediately smiled, "I would have died long ago, otherwise I would be here today." "What do you mean?" Tao was shocked, with both hatred for her daughter and worry in her eyes. Jiang Ning shrugged, "You said he was a little ruffian, a second-rate bastard, How could he end up well? Die early, die late, what's so surprising? Tao Shi frowned subconsciously, what's wrong? Did he make you unhappy? I said that was not a good thing at the beginning, but you insisted on getting married, but, forget it. Let's not talk about it. What about now? What's the situation now? How many children are there? 5. Tao Shi breathed a sigh of relief and finally had a smile on her face. 5 is a lot. It doesn't matter if the little ruffian is unreliable, we still have children. How many boys and how many girls? 4 boys and 1 girl, the youngest is a girl, Zhang Ning said concisely and to the point. Tao subconsciously believed that Zhang Ning's good life today was brought about by the outstanding achievements of her sons, and her smile deepened a lot. Where are my grandchildren? Zhang Ning replied, funny, only the second couple are here, the others are in Ping'an County and have not come with me. I really hope they can come with me to Ping'an County for a visit. Don't talk about me. Tell me what happened to my father and brother. The smile on Tao's face suddenly disappeared, and she looked away and secretly wiped away tears. Zhang Ning looked at Zhang Xiaokai. You tell me. Zhang Xiaokai was suddenly called by name. She was startled and shouted dryly, Auntie. My father and I went to sea 5 years ago and encountered a storm. They were gone. My eldest brother went to sea with a group of people to fish for pearls some time ago and went out. It's no accident. My mother-in-law cried her eyes out because of my father's death. Zhang Ning met Guo's dull eyes and asked, have you seen the doctor? What did the doctor say? Zhang Xiaokai lowered his head and said, I have only seen the doctor near Hankou village. The doctor can't cure me well. Tao sighed repeatedly, all the men in our family have a bad life, and all the ones left behind are women. Zhang Ning was speechless and asked again, you didn't live on a boat before, so why did you suddenly move to Hankou village? Tao fell into memories. Back then, your father caught a big fish weighing more than 30 kilograms in Wujiang River and sold it for 30 taels of silver. With the 300 coins given by Yang Hu, we could barely settle down on land and get ashore. Who wants to live on a boat? Later, your father went to inquire about it. After asking for a long time, he found a village in Fukan that was willing to sell land to us. At that time, we were just happy and didn't think much about it. It was only after I moved in that I realized that people in the fishing villages are all related by relatives. Almost 80% of the fishermen in a village are from the same family. We are considered migrant households and it is difficult to establish ourselves in the village. Fortunately, your father and your eldest brother are still able to get along. Although our family has not been fully integrated into Hankou village, we have not been bullied by the villagers. Later, your nephew even married a girl from their village. If nothing happens in spring, our family will be able to integrate into that village in another 10 or 20 years. But now that things are happening like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to stay in that village anymore. Tao Shi was a little confused. She had been floating on the water for most of her life. She thought she would have a stable place to live in the rest of her life, but she didn't expect that everything would be in vain in the end. Hearing these words, Zhang Ning felt as if a big stone was pressing on his chest. In the original owner's memory, Tao and Jiang's father were both diligent and down-to-earth people. The couple gave birth to a pair of children, and they treated both children equally, not because the original owner was the daughter disliked it, but because she was a girl. She was not allowed to interfere in many heavy and tiring tasks, which was why the original owner developed a lazy and unclear temperament. The same goes for the eldest brother of the original owner. With such a little sister, he naturally has to dote on her unconditionally and always leave good things to her. He will not do anything the original owner says. Unfortunately, the original owner who was pampered by the whole family is not grateful. Instead, the older he gets, the more he dislikes her. From a poor family, in order to escape from the ship, he even did not hesitate to elope with someone like Yang Hu. Zhang Ning inherited the body of the original owner. In the eyes of outsiders, she was the original owner. Before she could say sorry to her family on behalf of the original owner, the two family members who loved her were no longer there. Okay, Anyang. I'm still here, aren't I? It doesn't matter if you can't live in Hankow village. As long as I'm here, it won't be a problem even if you want to be neighbors with the prefect, Zhang Ning said half jokingly and half seriously. Tao Shi glanced at her angrily. That's nonsense again. You are now a member of the Yang family, and this matter has caused such a big fuss today. Will your parents-in-law, uncles and sisters-in-law find out about it and cause trouble for you? Butler Zhu came in to change the hot tea. After hearing this, he immediately replied respectfully, "Don't worry, old lady. Madam is the head of the family. No one dares to object to what she says." Tao Shi was not used to this title and felt uncomfortable all over. She asked in surprise, "What's going on?" Butler Zhu asked meaningfully, "Have you ever heard of Mrs. Mui, Uncle Guang-en?" Tao Shi paused and said, "Mrs. Mui has heard of it. It's the one that grows taro. No one in Kuzhu Prefecture knows about it. Uncle Guang-en doesn't know much about it." Butler Zhu looked at Zhang Ning respectfully and said, "Madam is the wife of Mui whom the emperor has conferred, and she is also the uncle of Guanjin who has been conferred by the emperor. Our number one person in Kuzhu Prefecture, even the prefect, must bow to my wife when he sees her." Everyone in the Zhang family was stunned by the news and looked at Zhang Ning with different expressions. Tao Shi was dumbfounded and murmured, "Pinch me quickly, I'm not dreaming. Grandma, pinch me by the way." As soon as Zhang Xiaokai said this, Zhang Ning burst into laughter and said, "This is the Dongli villa that was gifted to me by the emperor. I gave it to the second brother. The second brother opened an inn and built a kill workshop in the village. He knew many masters who build houses. If you want to buy another piece of land to build a house, I will ask my second brother to help you. If you want to buy a ready-made house in Fukan, I will ask Butler Zhu to do it." "That's not possible, you've been married for so many years, why don't you buy a house for your natal family?" Tao frowned subconsciously. Zhang Ning was puzzled. "Auntie, don't look at what you are doing now." "I don't care. You are more serious. Man. Living a comfortable life is the real thing. If you insist on saving face, you will only suffer. Okay. Just do what I say on this matter. You just have to decide whether you want to buy land or a house in the city." Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 217. This Tao is a little confused. Zhang Ning glanced at Mr. Guo and said to Mr. Tao, "The Yang family didn't give you any gift when I got married. This time I'll pay for your accommodation." Who dares to make irresponsible remarks? Mrs. Tao struggled for a while. Thinking of their family's current situation, she could only sigh and smile bitterly. "Okay. I'm getting older, but in the end I still enjoy the blessing of a girl." Zhang Ning then smiled with satisfaction and asked Butler Zhu, "Where are the second young master and the second young madam?" Butler Zhu respectfully replied, "The second young master and the second young madam have been with Mrs. Su to look at shops these days. They often go into the city. The second young madam also has to go to the Zhenbao pavilion. They only come back after dark these 2 days." Zhang Ning had forgotten that there was still this problem, and was a little annoyed. "They will come back later and let them come over to meet people. Let's invite Mrs. Su to come over tomorrow and we will discuss it." "Yes," Butler Zhu hurriedly retreated. Zhang Ning looked at her parents' family again. "Have you decided whether to buy a house or land to build a house?" Tao Shi looked directly at Zhang Xiaokai and Xian Kun, and said thoughtfully, "Look at the current situation of our family. Xian Kun and Xiaokai are the only ones who can do the best. Just ask them." Zhang Xiaokai and Xian Kun looked at each other several times, but stopped talking. Zhang Ning saw this and said in deep thought, If you have any concerns, just tell me and I will take care of them together. Thank you, Aunt. Zhang Xiaokai swallowed her saliva and said cautiously, Aunt, I am not in good health. I was very ill some time ago and almost died. It was Xian Kun who saved me in exchange for money. I can't live like this. Grandma and Grandma. Grandma is old and can't do anything, let alone my grandma. The whole family is pointing at Xian Kun. Now that we have a little baby, we can live wherever we want to make money. Zhang Ning doesn't know Xian Kun's situation yet. Mrs. Tao said slowly, Xian Kun, this child, is also a hard luck man. His family, like ours, are all Dan people. However, Xian's family is very thin. Their grandparents and grandchildren depend on each other. After Xian Kun's grandma passed away, only the remaining this child was alone. The child was only 8 years old at the time. What could he do? Your father couldn't bear it, so he asked Xian Kun to come and live with us. There was no one in the Xian family. At that time, your eldest brother even joked about finding a husband for Xiao Qiu. The two children grew up together and had a deep relationship. They would get married when they were old. However, Xian Kun is the only one left in the Xian family. We don't think about getting married, we just make do with each other. Zhang Ning understood. From that day when Xian Kun asked the shopkeeper of Zhenbao Pavilion, she knew that this man was a good man, and he was kind and kind. Her expression became much kinder at the moment. What do you know how to order? Or what do you want to do for a living? My aunt, I know how to fish and mend nets, but nothing else. Xian Kun lowered his head in shame. Zhang Ning shook his head solemnly, forget fishing, it's too risky. Now the women in this family are counting on you. It's best not to take risks if you can. I haven't been in Fukan for a long time, and I'm not very familiar with it here. I'll wait for my two sons later. We'll discuss it when I get back, and you'll stay here during this time. Tao hesitated and said, can you change the place? I'm not used to living in your big house. Zhang Ning almost rolled his eyes, you really don't know how to enjoy it. That's all. If you don't get used to living in this house, I will ask Butler Zhu to clean up Z1. There are many yards in Z1 where you can have a separate stove. They are all in the Zhuangzi. Where do you live? Also. Okay, just like that, live there. Tao was overjoyed. Zhang Ning shook his head repeatedly. He really could not understand this old lady more and more. When Tao and his party saw Z1, they were a little frightened when they saw the big yard. Fortunately, the backyard was full of small yards, so they were quite comfortable. The family entered the house, and Zhang Xiaokai asked puzzledly, Grandma, why don't you live with your aunt? Tao Shi sighed and looked at Guo Shi, of course I am willing to live with my daughter, but your mother-in-law may not be comfortable. Ms. Guo clasped her hands nervously, Anayang, that's not what I meant. It's just that I'm blind and can't see anything. I'm afraid that I'll embarrass my sister-in-law by staying there. Tao sighed again, we have been our mother-in-law and daughter-in-law for so many years. I know what you want, otherwise I wouldn't refuse that girl's kindness. Tao Shi smiled again as she said this is really an unpredictable life. Who would have thought that my careless daughter would have such a great fortune? Zhang Xiaokai nodded vigorously, and her pale face became much brighter. Grandma, are we really in trouble? With Aunt protecting us, those people in Hankow village can no longer bully us. And Gong Mei, that woman must regret it. As soon as he thought about this, Zhang Xiaokai felt extremely happy and felt that his illnesses were much better. Ms. Guo advised, okay. If you don't mention those bad things, she will have nothing to do with our family in the future. It's not worth getting angry for that kind of person. Zhang Xiaokai's health was originally good, but she was hit by the bad news about her father and brother one after another, and she collapsed from physical and mental exhaustion. Gong Mei's cold-blooded reality gave her another heavy blow, so that she ended up seriously ill and almost died. So her hatred for Gong Mei is particularly deep. Zhang Xiaokai took a deep breath, nodded heavily, and asked, Grandma, Grandma, what do you think we should choose? In my opinion, it is better for us to live in the city. It will be easier to find a job this way. Mrs. Tao shook her head. There are no fields or land in the city, and it's not like we have the sea in the fishing village. We have to spend money to buy food and supplies. How can the little money we earn be enough? I want your aunt to live outside the city. Buy a piece of land and get a few acres of farmland. If you don't know how to farm, you can learn how to farm, and you can also change your household registration. The status of fishermen among scholars, farmers, industry, and commerce is far lower than that of farmers. If the Zhang family's household registration can be changed, it will be regarded as changing the lintel of the family. In this way, she can die in peace. Mrs. Guo nodded repeatedly. Your grandma is right. It would be best if she could change her household registration. There is also Xian Kun. Xian Kun is the only one left in the Xian family. Although Gong Mei is ruthless, she left a trace of blood for your eldest brother. From now on, your child can only be named Xian, and we have to think about it for the Xian family. Xian Kun was so moved that his eyes turned red. Auntie, I'm not in a hurry. After careful consideration, Zhang Xiaokai felt that this was more reasonable. Okay. Then we will learn to farm together, as long as our family is doing well. The matter is settled. Yang Erden and Sun Yan came back in the evening. When they heard that Zhang Ning had brought her mother's family back, they were shocked and hurried to see Zhang Ning. After hearing about the Zhang family's situation, even Su's promise made his eyes red with discomfort, let alone Yang Erden. Zhang Ning took them to Z1. Tao Shi was stunned for a while when she saw Yang Erden, and then her eyes brightened. She walked forward quickly and stared at him without blinking, praising him repeatedly. Good, good. This child looks so good. He looks like your grandfather. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 218. Yang Erden subconsciously looked at Zhang Ning. Zhang Ning nodded slightly at him. Among her 5 children, Yang Data looked the most like Yang Hu, Yang Erden looked like her, and from the Zhang family, Yang Santi didn't particularly look like anyone, maybe 50-50, Yang Sizhuang. What's even more amazing is that the child is better than them all, looks better than them all, and has the best talent among the brothers. Yang Xiao is the most like her. Tao Shi was a little excited because of Yang Erden's appearance. Zhang Ning comforted her for a while before she calmed down. Tao Shi told them their plan. By the way, we have thought about buying land and building a house outside the city. Anning, do you think we can change our household registration if we have land? Yes, Zhang Ning agreed without even thinking about it. Tao Shi smiled from ear to ear. Okay. We'll live outside the city. Yang Erden said thoughtfully, then just buy land in Xinghua village, and I will take care of it. Then Yang Erden told everyone in the Zhang family about the situation in Xinghua village. Hearing this, the Zhang family members looked full of longing. Zhang Ning saw that Tao Shi had looked at Xian Kun several times, but Xian Kun didn't understand it at all. He felt happy and told Yang Erden, to build 2 yards, your cousin-in-law must also have his own house. Tao was immediately moved to tears. Yang Erden has been in Fukan for so long, and he is very efficient in getting things done. The next day, he bought the land in the name of Zhang family and Xian family. Each family has 4 acres of homestead, 8 acres of paddy field and 12 acres of fertile land. When Tao got the land deed, she stared at it for a long time. Although she couldn't understand anything, it didn't stop her from crying bitterly as she stared at the pieces of paper. After the land deed was completed, Yang Erden immediately contacted Master Zhang and Master Chen to come over to work. At this time, Zhang Ning also thought of a way to make money for Mrs. Zhou. She asked Mrs. Zhou to rent a shop in the south of the city, specializing in selling snacks. Shops in the south of the city are cheap, so the rent is naturally not much higher, and the people living there are from well-off families. As long as the pastries are made well, there is no need to worry about running out of business. Zhang Ning was afraid that she wouldn't be able to cook too exquisite food, so he only taught her how to make 1000-layer sweet cake, 1000-layer salty cake, red bean glutinous rice cake, mung bean glutinous rice cake, and peach cake. The scent of peach cake will make anyone passing by it swallow their mouths. As long as Mrs. Zhou thinks about it carefully, the business of the dim sum shop will not be much different. Mrs. Zhou felt quite guilty at first. After studying with Zhang Ning for 5 or 6 days, she gained some confidence. She worked for another 3 or 4 days before leaving when she was sure she could open a shop. The Zhang family was also watching Madame Zhou's dim sum shop. The dim sum shop had been open for a month. That evening Madame Zhou hurriedly came to Dongli Villa to find Zhang Ning. As soon as she entered the door, she almost tripped over the threshold, but she couldn't stop her madness. "My mother-in-law. You are my lucky star. I really love you to death." Zhang Ning was drinking water and almost choked. Mrs. Tao was dumbfounded and muttered, "Are your relatives crazy? What's going on?" Mrs. Zhou ran in the door. She was too excited to speak and was panting heavily, but it didn't stop her from holding Zhang Ning's hand tightly and looking at Zhang Ning longingly. Zhang Ning was so frightened that her hair stood on end and she struggled hard. "Mother. We have something to say." "Calm down." "That's right. Do you want to call a doctor?" Tao was also a little panicked. The scene was chaotic for a while. Finally, Mrs. Zhou sat firmly, and Tao Shi and Zhang Ning breathed a sigh of relief. The mother and daughter stood next to each other and secretly looked at Mrs. Zhou. Mrs. Zhou took a sip of water, regained her composure, and said with a smile on her face, "I'm here to say thank you today. I'll give you some money by the way." "Huh? What are you going to do with my money?" Zhang Ning felt that Mrs. Zhou seemed to be seriously ill. Mrs. Zhou took it as a matter of course. "You taught me my craft and made me money, so I will definitely share your money with you. I have thought about it, and I will give you 30% of the profit from my shop from now on." "No. I don't want it," Zhang Ning refused. Mrs. Zhou was stunned for a moment and insisted, "No. You have to keep it." The two of them were in a stalemate, and Tao Shi was even curious, "How much money are you making?" and they are quarreling. "That's right, how much money did you earn?" Zhang Ning asked belatedly. Mrs. Zhou generously took out a large bag of silver from her sleeve and said, 60 taels. "The capital has been deducted." "Hiss," Tao took a breath, "I made 60 taels a month. Is this a money grab?" Mrs. Zhou laughed loudly, "Madam, I felt confused after doing the calculation. It took me a whole night to figure out that it was really 60 taels. How do you earn this?" All Tao's attention was attracted. Mrs. Zhou talked and gestured excitedly, and Mrs. Tao finally understood. "In other words, your family is the only one making peach cakes in the south of the city, and no one wants to compete with you." Exactly. Mrs. Zhou was very proud, and when the peach cake came out of the oven, it was so fragrant that even I couldn't help but want to steal a piece. Not many people who live nearby could resist it, and I sold it for a cheap price. 2 yuan and 3 cents, most people buy it in bags. A bag of 10 is 15 cents, and there are other snacks in the store that are also easy to sell, especially sweet and salty cakes, which are the favorites of the elderly. This month, several elderly people in the south of the city celebrated their birthdays, and they came to my shop to order sweet and salty cakes, each weighing hundreds of kilograms, as well as peach cakes. These things are great for entertaining guests and are decent. I am always very busy. Even if he doesn't touch the ground, sometimes Ishan will come to help me, but I won't let him, so he has to study hard. Things were selling out very quickly today, so I took the time to come over and agreed, you have to keep the money. I go first. Ms. Jo was extremely motivated. She dropped her money and ran away, regardless of whether Jiangning wanted to take it or not. As soon as she left, Jiangning couldn't stop laughing and crying. He looked at the money and had no choice but to ask Butler Zhu to send it to Sun Yan. Tao Shi and her were the only ones left in the room. Jiangning pondered playfully, how is it? Do you still have any questions about your daughter? At the beginning, she proposed that Xian and Zhang Xiaokai go to the city to open a shop, but Tao didn't agree. In her opinion, the family had just acquired land and spring had just begun. They had to learn to farm the land first and finish the spring plowing. Besides, there are so many young couples to take care of, how can they still have the energy to do other things? Jiangning didn't force it, but now that she asked again, Tao was speechless. She was about to stimulate the old lady again, but she heard Tao ask seriously, do you think it's possible for your sister-in-law and I to open a shop? Jiangning spurted out a mouthful of water, Mom, we don't want to tell jokes while I'm drinking water. I'm serious, Tao Shi clenched her fists holding back her strength. Jiangning sneered again and again, so you don't care about your precious great-grandson. As soon as these words came out, Ms. Tao instantly fainted, I'm so confused. I forgot that I have a precious great-grandson. Jiangning covered her mouth and snickered, it's better to listen to me and let Xiaokai go to the city to open a shop. My sister-in-law can help me, and her eyes often need to go to the hospital for treatment. It's best for mother and daughter to go to the city. You can take the child with you. Let Xian do the work in the fields. If Xian is too busy, he can rent it to others. There are many ways. I'll think about it again. Tao didn't agree immediately, but went back to discuss with Zhang Xiaokai and the others. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 219. Chapter 219 Envy. The members of the Zhang family were instantly excited when they heard that Madame Zhou had made 60 taels a month, especially Zhang Xiaokai. She only wanted to make money so that her family could live a good life. She almost fainted from excitement because of the news. Auntie, I've decided that I'm going to sell things too, I'm going to tell my aunt now that I can do it too. Zhang Xiaokai clenched her fists. Tao Shi subconsciously looked at Xian, if Xiaoqi really goes to Fukan to sell things, can you take care of the land at home? The Zhang family and the Xian family are still working their yards, and it is estimated that it will take more than a month for people to move in. During this period, Xian and Zhang Xiaokai went from Dongli Villa to Xinghua village every day, and did not come back until dark. This is how the land is. The work is not done yet. Xian wanted to say it didn't matter, but when he saw Tao's wise eyes, he couldn't even lie. Zhang Xiaokai was a little discouraged, Grandma, maybe I'm really not good at farming. I'm obviously studying hard, but I can't hold the after a long time. Look at my hands. Zhang Xiaokai spread out his hands, and there were a few clear blisters on them. Tao's eyes turned red with distress, while Guo nervously touched Zhang Xiaokai's hand, and Zhang Xiaokai's expression changed when she touched those blisters. Mr. Guo couldn't help but cry again. Zhang Xiaokai shouted loudly, "Don't cry! Don't cry!" Guo was so frightened that she held back her tears. She turned to the direction of Tao and said, "Auntie, why don't we let Xiaokai go to the city to do business? Let Xiaokai go from the beginning. If we can really let AncientChina go together to make money, and the fields will be leased to the villagers, and we can harvest a few % of the grain. This year they planted a lot of taro and sweet potato in the fields. The rice in the paddy fields was also provided by rice seeds from Jiangning. The harvest from these few acres of land alone was enough for their family to live on. It would be okay to rent out the remaining fields. We can't exhaust AncientChina anymore for those places. Tao had no choice but to agree to this. The next day, Zhang Xiaokai went to find Jiangning. She was very direct. She told Jiangning that she was not a farmer, and she even showed her hands to Jiangning, which looked pitiful and funny at the same time. Jiangning couldn't help but laugh when he thought of how he was in such a difficult situation, and complained angrily, "Why didn't you come to your aunt earlier? Is it possible that your aunt can still bargain with you?" No. That's not what Xiaokai meant. Zhang Xiaokai didn't know why she, who was always a good person at home, automatically became well behaved when she was in front of her aunt, and sometimes even acted coquettishly. Jiangning said clearly, "Okay. Since you want to do business, have you thought about what business to do? Do you have any ideas? For example, which line of business to do, what are the requirements, etc." Zhang Xiaokai shook her head in a very bachelor manner, "And, my mind is empty and I know nothing. I will do whatever you say." Ha ha ha! Yang Erden and his wife walked to the door and happened to hear these words and couldn't help laughing. Zhang Xiaokai blushed instantly. Second cousin, you just heard wrong." Yang Erden and his wife smiled even deeper and stepped forward to say hello to Jiangning. Jiangning looked at Sun Yan with a smile and said, "You came just in time. Yesterday, your mother-in-law was really good. She came here and threw away the money and ran away. I don't think I can pay it back. She also made her own decisions and said she would give me the interest on the shop every month. It can be seen that I am very confident, but I really don't lack this little money. If you take it, if your mother-in-law still insists on giving me money, just keep it and be obedient." Sun Yan was blocked by Jiangning just as he was about to speak, so he could only accept the money obediently. Zhang Xiaokai saw it with her own eyes and became even more excited. "Good aunt, please give me some advice." After Yang Erden sat down, he said slowly, "My mother-in-law chose to open a shop in the south of the city because my uncle is studying. If you want to open a shop, you have to decide where to open it, so that my grandmother can help you figure out what business to do." Zhang Xiaokai pondered seriously. "The place I am most familiar with is definitely the east of the city, but most of the shops there sell seafood, and there are often merchant ships trading at the port." "That's not very good. There are many people, and there are still merchant ships coming and going. You will definitely not lose money when cooking." Yang Erden looked determined. He is not as good as his brothers and mother at home in business, but he has a lot of ears and eyes and can understand a little bit. Jiangning nodded in agreement and looked at him encouragingly. "Keep talking." Yang Erden sat upright and thought about it carefully. "The port is very similar to Songzi town, but my cousin can't afford a restaurant and inn by herself. She can open a small restaurant and sell some soups, steamed buns, pancakes, and the like, but it's not enough for the city. There should be a lot of restaurants like this over there in the east." Zhang Xiaokai nodded slightly. "My second cousin is right, but not right. The shops in the east of the city are not cheap. There are very few people opening restaurants. They are all selling seafood. Moreover, the shops are all owned by the rich, and the poor cannot afford them. So everyone is setting up a stall. I have thought about setting up a stall before, and I feel envious every time I pass by. Unfortunately, we don't have the skills, and we can't even make noodles." "Then can you braise fish?" Jiangning asked with raised eyebrows. Speaking of this, Zhang Xiaokai straightened her back immediately. "Yes. I can kill and cook fish." Jiangning smiled and said, "That's easy. Rent a shop near the port to sell food. Boiled fish fillets, pickled vegetables, fish fillets, seafood, fried shrimp cakes, fish cakes, etc. There are a lot of food, expensive and cheap. How about ensuring that poor people can afford it? Zhang Xiaokai had never heard of these foods and looked curious. Zhang Ning immediately asked Yang Erden to call the Tao family over and cook himself, teaching Zhang Xiaokai how to make these dishes. When Tao Shi saw the dishes that were delicious, and delicious, she was stunned and looked at Zhang Ning in disbelief. You made them all. When did you have this ability? Zhang Xiaokai testified from the side, Grandma, it was really my aunt who did it. I saw it with my own eyes. Tao Shi was speechless. She took a tentative bite of the boiled fish fillet. The strong fragrance and spicy taste swept through her mouth. Tao Shi's whole face changed. After that, she couldn't help but eat the second one. Mouth, unknowingly, I ate a lot of boiled fish fillets. Guo doesn't like spicy food very much, and prefers pickled fish. The two of them were full of praise for these two dishes. Xian Kunz ate shrimp and fish cakes one at a time. His mouth was so hot that he couldn't stop eating. The three of them saw the deliciousness of these dishes and became more confident in opening a shop. Xian Kun said worriedly, is it okay for Xiaokai to kill, cook, and entertain guests all by himself? How about you go and help too, Zhang Ning said matter-of-factly. In the end, after everyone in the Zhang family discussed it, they decided to rent out all the land and let the young couple open a shop. When the Zhang family restaurant opened near the port in the east of the city, all the nearby fishermen received the news. The villagers of Hankou village also learned of the incident immediately and spread the news back to the village. Dressed as a mother-in-law, she leads the whole family to turn over. Author, Bamboo Fence Tea. Chapter 220. Chapter 220 Bad Idea. The village chief has been sick these past few days because he was frightened by Zhang Ning last time. He has also been angry and causing trouble with Gong Mei's family, and he has not reflected on himself at all. Hearing this, he couldn't help but worry, and asked his mother-in-law, you said that the Zhang family opened a shop in the east of the city. If people from our village meet in the future, will they be angry with us? The village chief's wife glared at him angrily. Why did you go there if you were afraid now? I told you back then, you are the village chief and you need a bowl of water. Even if the Zhang family is a migrant, you can't, it's too much. You always say it doesn't matter, and you also say that those outsiders can't make any waves. Now it's better, and I'm really in trouble. Okay. What's the point of talking so much now? It's better to think about what to do quickly. You also saw how miserable Gong Mei's mother was when she came back that day. The village chief couldn't stop thinking about that scene. Shivering all over. Not only him, but everyone who witnessed Gong's mother's tragic situation that day had nightmares for several days. Now no one in the village dares to get too close to Gong Mei's family, for fear of being angered by Uncle Guang En. After all, what Gong's mother said that day was really unpleasant and rebellious. Uncle Guang En could kill her with all his heart. The village chief's wife scolded her with a sullen face for a while, then angrily went to Gong Mei's house with a basket in hand. Gong Mei's family has been like a transparent person in the village since they offended Uncle Guang En last time. No one dared to talk to them, because Gong's mother was beaten dozens of times in the government office, and the wounds on her body were not healed properly. Without the land, Gong Mei could only stay at home to take care of her illness. She could not go out and did not dare to go out. Only Gong's father and Gong Mei's younger brother Gong Hai go out in the family. Both of them have dull tempers, which may be embarrassing. They will not take the initiative to talk to the villagers except going to the sea, so they know nothing about the outside world. The whole family was there when the village chief's wife came over, but the atmosphere at home was a bit gloomy. The village chief's wife put down some wild vegetables she had brought and asked Gong Mei in a good voice, "How is your mother's health?" Gong Mei had tears in her eyes and tried to hold back the tears. "It's almost better. I should be able to go to the ground in 10 days and a half. The village chief's wife breathed a sigh of relief, with a smile on her face, but the smile was not big enough. When your mother-in-law gets better, are you going to arrange your marriage? Gong Mei's face stiffened and she lowered her head. The village chief's wife's face changed slightly. What? What's the problem? Gong Mei didn't know how to speak, so she turned around and entered the room. The village chief's wife hurriedly chased after him. When Gong's mother heard what the village chief's wife said, she was so angry that she beat the bed on the spot and cursed, "Obviously, I exchanged the gengtai and gave the bride price, but now the man wants to cancel the engagement, and he says he doesn't want the bride price, huh? No way." The face of the village chief's wife changed drastically. She was anxious and angry. "Why do you regret it when you are so good? Our village has such a good relationship with Xinjiakan, how could they do this?" "I don't know either. Auntie, you have to talk to my uncle and let him make the decision for our Ame. If the widow remarries and is annulled, what will our Ame do in the future?" Gong's mother raised eyebrows when she mentioned this matter. "It's a bubble." The village chief's wife was thinking about other things, and she couldn't help but blame Mother Gong. "You said you were serious too. If you hadn't done things so well, what would the Zhang family have done for the sake of Ame giving birth to a son for Dachun? It won't be so ugly." Who knew there were rich relatives in that poor settlement? Gong's mother had regretted it for a long time, but it would not help if she regretted it. Those slaps on her were not fake. Now he didn't dare to scold Uncle Guang'en, and he didn't even want to mention the Zhang family. The village chief's wife rolled her eyes back and forth, sat down on the edge of the bed, and whispered, "In this case, since Xinjiakan regrets the marriage, this marriage will not count. Let Ame go to the Zhang family to admit her mistake and stay down and be a child. After all, she is the child's biological mother, and Da Chun's mother is the most soft-hearted, and she may not be able to accept Ame again after a while." Gong's mother and Gong Mei were both stunned. After seeing Zhang Ning's methods, they did not dare to have such thoughts at all. The village chief's wife sighed with hatred. "Think about it, if widow Ame is divorced, who can she marry in the future? Are you willing to marry far away?" Of course Gong's mother was reluctant to part with her. Although she was stupid, she really loved these two children. Otherwise, she would not have married Gong Mei to the extremely poor migrant Zhang Dachun, and she had to become a widow because she was worried that Gong Mei would be injured in miscarriage. When her daughter gave birth to that child, it can be said that she really didn't care about her child. Gong's mother was caught in a war between heaven and man. Gong Mei remained silent on the sidelines. She was indeed moved by the village chief's wife's suggestion, but she didn't have the guts to act. Moreover, she couldn't guarantee that she could really stay on her own terms for the rest of her life, in case she couldn't help but do something outrageous. Gong Mei couldn't help but shiver and didn't dare to think deeply. Seeing that they were silent, the village chief's wife immediately lost her face and said, "I told you, the Zhang family has opened a restaurant near the port thanks to some wealthy relative. People in our village can really see it. Yes, people will live a good life in the future, think about it yourself." As soon as the village chief's wife left, Gong's mother suddenly lost her composure. "Ame, what do you think?" "Auntie, I..." Gong Mei's heart moved, but she couldn't make up her mind. Gong's mother gritted her teeth and clenched her fists. "Listen to your aunt and go try it. If it works, you won't have to live a hard life." Gong Mei, under Gong's mother's persuasion, changed into clean clothes and went to the port early the next morning. She immediately saw the restaurant where customers flocked to her. She took a deep breath and walked slowly into the shop. "What would you like to eat, sir?" Zhang Xiaokai turned around and saw that the person coming was Gong Mei. She immediately darkened her face and said angrily, "What are you doing here? Get out. You are not welcome in my shop." The diners who came in looked at Gong Mei strangely. Gong Mei was so embarrassed that she squeezed out 2 tears pitifully. "Xiaokai, I know I was wrong. I haven't seen my child these days. I can't eat well and can't sleep. Only then did I realize that I can't leave at all. Kai, please give me a chance to redeem myself, okay? Zhang Xiaokai seemed to have heard some big joke, and laughed so hard that she almost burst into tears. You want a child? If I remember correctly, it was you who abandoned your own flesh and blood, and the child cried so hard that you didn't even go in to see him. You also signed and pledged to sever ties with your children, and now you say you can't live without them. Who are you kidding? Gong Mei, you are smart but don't treat others as fools. If my aunt hadn't recognized us as relatives, you wouldn't be here today. Even if the child suffered hardships with us, you wouldn't have looked at it twice. Women like you can only share wealth and wealth, not adversity. I'm glad I saw your true face before my aunt came. You have nothing to do with our Zhang family anymore. Get out of here before I get angry, otherwise don't blame me for being rude.